What's happening, fam? L.A.R. movement still moving. Book is entitled Lessons from a Non-Custodial Father at Amazon, Kindle, and Create Space. Link will be in the description box below as usual. Go get it. PayPal link there also. They asked me to put it up, so I put it up. Thanks everybody for supporting. This video is entitled Don't Let Your Trauma Consume You. You know, I don't know. I didn't. There's so many triggers nowadays. It's ridiculous. But one of the issues that I have just watching life is people let their trauma take over. Life can be very great and heavenly if you let it. If you can control your trauma, because the negative things are going to happen. Now to the level and degree, that's that's the question. But do you actually want to live a life where you replaying trauma over and over and over again and every day? Because when you let it consume you, you don't necessarily deal with it. No, I'm not telling anybody to get over what happened to you, or it was nothing, or some people have it worse. And even though some people have it worse, thing can be very legitimate. But who's to say? But beyond that point, there's also the responsibility of a person to say, listen, this is your trauma. This is what happened to you. Do you want to, be better tomorrow? Or do you want to be in the same state that you're in today? And I think a lot of people are committed and married to death do them part with their trauma. You might not be able to commit to people because they may be committed to their trauma. It causes them an anxiety. And in a twisted way, you can't build a relationship with a person because you're making love to your trauma every day. And it's unhealthy. To say the least, it's very unhealthy. I even talk about this, and everybody talks about when they were younger. Me as a person, the reason I can come up with so many topics and have so many things is because I've been through a lot, I've seen a lot, but I only talk about things after I go through them. So a lot of the stuff that I talk about is stuff and topics that I've actually worked through a long time ago, and I'm comfortable enough to talk about it now without getting angry. You know what I mean? So, and I understand that a lot of people like quote unquote passion, but in my opinion, they like anger, because anger is an emotion that a lot of people are living with currently, and you're angry like me, so we can connect. And for me, my dad used to tell me anger is the enemy, because anger can kill you from the inside. And for me, anger is also a fuel that I can focus and operate if I get angry. But if I have nothing to focus it on, I'm just going to eat myself alive. So I find it useless if I don't have a direction to guide that emotion. And that's the same thing with trauma. Like, your trauma eats you alive because you don't express it in other ways. Like, that's why when you this culture is so into art and entertainment, is because The culture is traumatized. The people are traumatized, and they need a way to express themselves. So you express yourself in a myriad of ways, whether it's arts as far as paintings, whether it's music as far as expression, as far as a form of expression, as far as the way you dress, you're trying to express yourself, and ultimately that has a lot to do with trauma. But that's the thing. When you're dealing in these situations where if you let it consume you, you're like a person who nobody can help you, nobody can save you. When they talk about people who are drowning, you got to let them sink because their constant, fighting and grabbing is gonna pull you down, and they're gonna drown you trying to save them. That's what happens when your trauma consumes you. Every time somebody tries to help you out of it, you pull them into it. You pull them down. You pull them down, and this is why you hear people, not necessarily therapy support groups, talk about what was your rock bottom. Because if you let your trauma consume you, it's going to take you to a rock bottom. And if that's your only way to learn that you're going to have to come up out of that trauma, then so be it, But you shouldn't let it consume you. You shouldn't let your bad experiences consume you, because sometimes that the trauma that you had consumes you to the point where you ruin good things in your present and in your future, because you're seeing the present and ruining the future because through a traumatized lens. So kind of like a person who's a schizophrenic, where this conversation that I'm having right now with you, if I was talking to a schizophrenic, it'll be a completely different conversation from their eyes and in their ears and mine. And I would have a completely different demeanor. I wouldn't look as calm. I would be, all over the place, cussing them out. And it trigger them to go off. And you think a person with schizophrenia is crazy, but they're actually responding to what to somebody going left. It's just not in their eyes and mine they're going left, but in everybody else around them it's a normal conversation. So they're in their own little bubble. But a lot of us view people like that. We interact with people from our trauma, from our triggers, and then they're being normal, and we're responding to something that happened to us in the past. We're responding to a person because we see them as a person from our past or a situation from our past. They remind us of something else. And that winds up consuming you to the point where you don't know you crazy. Because you justify the reason I'm acting like this is because of blah, 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 blah. And people could say, oh, I get it. But then people going to ask, but what do they have to do with that? See, they don't even know your circumstance, situation, or your trauma. They have no idea. You just did that for what? Just like been around people who they get a kick out of aggravating people or hurting people's feelings or getting people riled up. That makes them happy. And then they wonder why people respond to them in the way that they do. And they wonder why people prey on their downfall. Because they take enjoyment out of traumatizing people. So it's problematic. Don't let your trauma consume you, because you're going to have to deal with you at the end of the day. And sometimes trauma can be so bad that you wind up traumatizing other people the same way you were traumatized. And ironically, what happens when you see a person who you traumatized and they were able to move on and they're moving on further than you are, and you're still dealing in the trauma that you got passed down, and you can't even address the trauma that you caused, and you looking at them like how they happy, how they functional, how did they move on, how some people hate other people because they didn't let their trauma consume them, and instead of asking them how they got out of it, they would rather try to destroy them. So this is this one. Like, share, subscribe if y'all want. Catch y'all on the next one. Peace.